Should we do this? I bet this is gonna be really cringe. Maybe not, but I think it could be really cringe. I'm braced.
Stupidity. So while we're talking about stupidity, let's talk about video games. Not because
Okay, off to a great start. Okay.
video games themselves are stupid, but because a lot of stupid stuff is talked about video games. The culture and the arts is one of the things that broadens our minds, broadens our soul, makes it easier for us to acquire information that we don't like. And so that makes us prepared to understand that the world has things we don't like in them. And sometimes our heroes turn out to be villains, and sometimes the guys we like make big mistakes. And those are things that we have to learn. And all of that takes a big soul. You have to have a big soul to have an open mind. That's the way that works, right? And you hear a lot.
You have to have a big soul to have an open mind. I guess. I hate this kind of frilly language because it doesn't mean anything. Like, you're just saying things that sound great. It's like when you say, oh, in order for the world to become a better place, we have to open our hearts. Okay? Like, what the hell does that mean? You know, it's like when you hear a celebrity singing a song. Michael Jackson did this all the time. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. It's like, okay, but what the hell does heal the world mean? Like, how does that help people in Darfur or with AIDS in Nigeria? Like, what does that actually do to help? Literally anything. Like, it's just frilly language. But I get it. You know, it's fine. It's artistic language, speaking of the arts. But yeah, it's just a slight diatribe. By the way, everybody, like the stream. Like the stream right now.
A lot of guys, especially on the right.
I see a video game industry that teaches young people to kill.
But you
Oh, wow. Dude, it's got to be so hard living life like that. Like, you just look around every corner and you think that there's just like spooky video game monsters and everything is a ploy to like steal your children away. Like, it's got to be exhausting. It's the same thing with like conspiracy theorists. It's got to be miserable because everything in life is just like further proof that you are a victim and you are the like suffering under some crazy tyrannical dictatorship. Like, it's got to be exhausting.
You hear it on the left too. The left tends to think, oh, the video games are bad because of their content.
This is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
They're violent, they're manly, they have men in them being men, and they have girls with nice figures because a lot of young boys play them, so they want to look at girls with nice figures. We adults don't want to look at girls with nice figures. We hate that.
Oh, Lizzo?
Play them, so they want to look at girls with nice
I can't
figures.
be specific about this, okay? I can't be specific about this. But what I'm going to tell you is that I know someone who, again, no specifics. I'm not going to say anything more, so don't even bother asking. But they had an opportunity to, let's just say, be exposed to Lizzo for an extended period of time, like in real life. Like, meet her, they were around her for a while, like a week or two. Not like every day, but like, you know, they were present. And apparently, she is horrible. Like, evil, manipulative, crazy ass monster. Like, whatever crazy stuff you've heard about celebrities being toxic and horrible and acting like everybody else are their servants, that's her, times 10. I would give examples, but I don't think I can without, like, saying things that might get this person in trouble. But yeah, no, horrible person. Horrible person. Just bad. So, I mean, it doesn't really surprise anybody, because you see her interviewed and she seems a little nasty. And so for me, it's not really shocking, but some people seem to think that she's like super sweet and, you know, go get it, girl. No, she's horrible. Like, horrible.
Hate that. but you get a lot of this stuff that men shouldn't waste their time playing. On the right, you get this: men shouldn't waste their time playing video games. Men should waste their time telling other men what to do. And I don't agree with any of this stuff. I don't agree with any of it. It always makes me. I love the fact here at the Daily Wire, they're always teasing me about being old because I'm 172 and they're 12. But the funny thing is a lot of them, I listen to their opinions and I think they sound like they're 80, and I have the emotional intelligence of a 14-year-old. Let's start with this: are video games good or bad? Because
it is an interesting thing to say that. There's Puritan culture. You guys have probably picked up on it with the Hogwarts Legacy stuff, where it's, for whatever reason in our culture right now, it's standard to go up and try to tell people what they should do morally, ethically, and try to dictate how they live their lives. And if you disagree with me, you're a bad person, right? You've seen it all over Twitter. If you buy Hogwarts Legacy, you're a bad person. It's a very Puritan way of going through life, trying to dictate moral behaviors. And it's interesting because that Puritan attitude is not a political one. It's something that spans political opinions. It's more of a personality type. And you see it on the far left and on the far right. You see it on the far left with people saying, don't do this because you're supporting J.K. Rowling, blah, blah, blah. And you also see it on the right with people saying, no, you shouldn't play these video games because they teach you to kill, or you shouldn't watch that movie because there's a scene where two people have intercourse and they're not married, or there's a scene with oh my God, I heard somebody talking about Rocket Man, the biopic on Elton John, and there's a scene where straight up Elton John has sex with a dude, straight up, real talk, look here, look, listen. And oh my God, hearing somebody, again, I won't be specific, but somebody I know who, let's just say, is a very good Christian, hearing their reaction to that was quite hilarious, because they went in to see the movie and they thought it was just, I guess they didn't know Elton John was gay, which I don't know how you don't know that, but they went into the movie not expecting that and were horrified. And it was quite funny to hear them tell this story and try to keep a straight face. Dude, it was so funny. But anyway, this Puritan attitude is something that spans multiple political divides, and it's more of an attitude and personality than anything else. So
they come under a lot of flack from both the left and the right. First of all, there's nothing wrong with having some kind of harmless entertainment that you like. I do a lot of puzzles. I love puzzles. I play video games from time to time. Obviously, you don't want that to take away from doing your job or fulfilling your responsibilities as an adult in your family and all those things. But when I was in Afghanistan, when I was embedded with the troops, just before I got there, the day before I got there, in fact, I was supposed to be there a day earlier and I missed my helicopter. The people that I was with, the unit that I was being embedded with, got attacked, came under fire. And I was immediately like, oh, I missed it because I'm an idiot. And so I wanted to put that as part of the story I was writing. And so I went around and interviewed the guys who had come under fire so I could hear their story. And one of the guys was a gunner in one of the Humvees who had been hit. Luckily, thank God, his armor had saved him, so he wasn't hurt. And he was playing, I think it was Call of Duty. He was playing war after getting shot at the day before. He was actually playing a video game. So manly men play video games. Everybody has harmless things that they do to entertain themselves. But it goes beyond that with me. It goes beyond that with me. Recently, we put out a video of me playing God of War, and I was looking at the comments on YouTube, and there were a lot of comments going, he's not really playing that. He's too old. Isn't it nice that such an elderly gentleman could be playing God of War? But I am the original gamer gangster, right? I was there at the beginning when you guys weren't born, and I was with video games from the beginning and went through their period of greatest development. And it meant a lot to me because I'm an artist and because I care about the way people tell stories and the things that are beautiful. When I was a little kid, I used to love board games and things like that, and puzzles. I still love puzzles. And I used to actually have dreams before I discovered girls. When I was 10 or 11, I would daydream about games that would run themselves. So instead of just playing with figures on a game, the figures would be moved by mechanics.
The Soldier Boy of gaming.
by electricity, which is what we had then instead of what we have now, which is magic. But then we had electricity, and I would have those dreams. And when I first saw the first video game, which was Pong, when I was in college back in the 70s, it was like that scene in 2001. Do you remember the scene in 2001 where the monkeys see the great Earth Stone? That was my reaction to seeing Pong. I thought, oh my God, it is actually happening. And then, you know, my life began, and so I stopped. I wasn't playing Pong all the time, and I missed the development that was going on until one day I was a newspaper reporter in a small county outside of New York City, and we used to gather around the pinball machine and talk about the day's stories. I actually beat Adam Nagurney, who went on to be the New York Times top political reporter. I beat him in a pinball contest and won a gigantic stuffed pink dog. Somewhere a picture of me weighing about 40 pounds more than I weigh now and smoking a cigarette with that pink dog exists. And Nagurney was a really sore loser about it. But I beat him fair and square. And so we played pinball, and then one day we walked into one of the restaurants in town, and Space Invaders had come out. And for me, again, it was love at first sight. I used to come in there with rolls of quarters until one day I woke up and I had a bump on the back of my wrist. I know I've told this story before. I went to a doctor and I said, what's this bump on the back of my wrist? And the doctor said, have you been making repeated pressing motions lately? And in fact, I had been hitting this button. I was the first person I knew to get Space Invaders wrist, which that very Sunday was in the newspaper because it was an actual phenomenon because everybody was playing Space Invaders.
Tino?
Which is really, really funny. Like, it became a phenomenon they reported because people were starting to injure their wrists because they were playing so many video games that had those repeated motions. It's the same thing. Like, now, look on your hands. Look on your hands. Do you have, I would bet you do, a slight, like, it depends if you're right-handed or left-handed. But basically, if you pick up your phone, you'll notice you probably pick up your phone and kind of keep maybe a pinky underneath it. What you'll notice, depending on how old you are, is that on your pinky, right where that weight sits, you probably have a slight bump, a little protuberance. And what that is a response from your body to that repeated pressure placed on it from you holding your phone there. Your body's like, okay, this is a weird pressure. And so it added, it responded by basically adding some extra padding there to smooth it out. It's weird. Some people have it also if you write like really aggressively and firmly with a pen, really forcing and clamping down on the stylus. Some people have their like writer's bump on their finger. Nikki has a big one like on her ring finger because that's where the pressure sits for her pens. And it's like, yeah, it's basically a callus. It's kind of a fun thing. But this was like the first time people were getting calluses and things from video games, which is just really funny to me. Stephen Folden, thank you. I've been watching clips from the live channel almost all day at work. Thanks for helping me get through my Friday. Awesome. I'm glad I could help, my friend. Appreciate you. Hopefully your day's going well. OMG, you learn something new every day. Yeah. Fun little tidbit. Fun little fact. So yeah, it's funny that he's mentioning this. This is not as controversial as I was hoping it would be. This is just him kind of coming in and saying, yeah, no, I like video games.
Stephen Folden donated $10 through Super Chat. I've been watching clips from the live channel almost all day at work. Thanks for helping me get through my Friday, smiley face.
You're very welcome. Hold on. Phil Arms is his name. Phil Arms.
Because it's important for the church to deal with issues as they come to the forefront in society. I said, son, what is that one morning? He said, that's Pokemon. Son, I found out that Pokemon means pocket monster. Pokemon, plural, are incredible creatures that share the world with humans. Each has his own fighting abilities.
Oh, Disco Cobra, thank you. That's most definitely what's up. $20, very generous. Is it going to read it? Oh, did it glitch out? Weird. I don't know what's doing. Okay. Just picked up a copy of Dead Space Remake on PS5, debating getting it on PC as well. Maybe after gifting a copy to my buddy. Are you planning on playing it on stream or doing a video on it possibly? Yes, I will be playing it later in the stream. Basically, I'm just trying to finish this Lego Titanic, and then I'll be jumping on it. So yes, we will be playing it. I have not tried it yet. I don't know what it's like. but I will be trying it on PC. So if you want to see how it runs on PC, I guess stick around. But as for a video on it, I'm not actually sure. We'll see what this weekend holds if something else comes up to make a video on for Monday. I don't know.
Some grow and evolve into even more powerful creatures. The children are developing relationships with all these Pokemon creatures. Little reclusive, power-filled monsters. But why should they carry these monsters in their pocket? They say the Pokemon...
Maybe I'm just building a memory that doesn't actually exist, but I'm pretty sure I've seen like my parents way back in the day watching a sermon very, very similar to this in like a Sunday school class they were in for a church that we attended. So I'm pretty sure, like, my family definitely had this attitude towards Pokemon. They always said it was evil, and I never could really explain why. But I think it's because, like, people like this guy were very, very vocal about it and made it kind of standard practice in a lot of American churches, which is weird. But yeah, it's just it's very, very funny. Because you'll start to hear that he starts out pretty mellow, and then it's going to get more and more crazy as it goes on. Yeah, it gets wacky.
Pokemon's whole effort is to train children how to become the #1 Pokemon master in the world. You follow it through the New Age teaching, you find out that masters are those who take control of spirits in the dark realm, and they tell those spirits what to do. The child at some point becomes capable of taking these powers and channeling them through their mind, through their arms, or through their power sources.
Okay.
Power sources, of course, are many of the symbols that they pick up from the Pokemon paraphernalia. So Pokemon is a game that teaches children how to enter into the world of witchcraft, how to cast spells, how to use psychic phenomena, how to put to work supernatural powers against their enemies, how to fantasy role play. Pokemon world is a world of the demonic, of the satanic. But while you might not take it quite seriously, I assure you that demons take it quite seriously. Satan takes it quite seriously. Your children need to know there's a devil, and he hates them, and he wants to ruin their life. There was even a couple of reports where children had been stabbed by other children over Pokemon cards. Do you remember the Dungeons and Dragons game of that?
Remember what I was saying about, like, it's got to be exhausting living life like this? Like, they seriously think that this card game is causing children to become possessed by demons to the point where they kill each other over control of these mythical monsters. It's got to be miserable living life like that.
The 80s where children, young people even ended up killing themselves because it was a role-playing game. Our kids are going out in gangs on the street.
Role-playing game. Yeah, talking about the D&D thing. Hold on, where... It was Retro Report. One of my favorite channels from back in the day. Retro Report. Do they still have it? Yeah. This is fascinating. This is the story of why D&D is commonly considered demonic. Really, really well done. Super short, but...
It began as a cult phenomenon, then it caught on. Now a new game is sweeping the country.
You will burn forever and ever in eternal torment. You are no more.
You are.
The role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons debuted in 1974. It became a hit with many adolescents, but critics claimed it was an invitation to devil worship.
The witchcraft, the demonism, the spells.
And worse.
It is not fun and games.
The media set off a satanic panic.
A lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders.
That connection has been largely debunked.
It's nothing but a witch hunt.
And the game has generated an unexpected legacy.
This was a revolution.
Yeah, whenever you think that, like, oh, the Salem witch trials, that stuff, that's so long ago. We're so much better now. This was like the 80s and 90s. There was a satanic panic in the States because they thought that a board game was causing people to, like, commit horrible crimes, massacres, all of it. They thought Marilyn Manson took over demonically, like the two young men that did and perpetrated Columbine. Like unironically thought these things. Like there's a lot of people out there who have no critical faculties at all. And it's amazing. Magic the Gathering as well. Yeah. Well, and like for my family, they would bash Magic the Gathering and not let us play it, but they could never tell you why. It was just, no, we don't play those games. They celebrate magic and sin. It was like, but like how though? How? Like it's just a game with this. You're okay with us watching like the Chronicles of Narnia that has magic and stuff in it. Why is this different? They could never really answer it because they didn't know the answer. They were just told by authority figures that they trusted not to do this thing, so they went along with it, and that's literally all it was. So it really should give you pause to really question how you think about things. Otherwise, you might fall victim to the magic of this insanity.
On a summer day in August 1979, the family of a missing teenager called a Texas investigator named William Deere with some startling information.
Dallas Egbert had disappeared from Michigan State University during the summer session.
James Dallas Egbert III was a 16-year-old sophomore, and his family hired Deere to help find him.
He was a computer nerd, and he had a large amount of hair and carried his little briefcase. I wasn't sure that I was being told exactly what precipitated his disappearance, so I said, well, I guess the best thing we can do is I'll go to Michigan State University, and I'll find out for myself exactly what was going on.
What he found when he went to Egbert's dorm room was a shelf of neatly stacked books and something else.
There was a cork board with a series of tacks.
In what might look like a random pattern of thumbtacks, the investigator saw what he thought could be a clue.
This is legitimately what they thought. This is how, like, insane and conspiratorial they started thinking about this.
The shape resembled a building that was part of a network of underground campus steam tunnels, which students told him they sometimes explored.
We set out with maps, and we started going into the tunnels one morning with press everywhere. I entered with the idea that I did not know what I was getting into.
But he had a hunch that it had something to do with a game that was growing in popularity.
This is a quest in a fantasy world of castles and dungeons, monsters and dragons.
Oh.
This world has become real to these people.
To these people. Oh, God, I love it. Well, thank you. Again. Oh, it's going to read it now. Hold on. I'll let it read it.
Stephen Folden donated $20 through Super Chat.
Very generous, thank you.
Went to church with a buddy in the summer and the preacher had a whole sermon against the Minions movie, because the devil has minions that do evil doing.
Huh. That's hilarious. Dude, I would love to hear that sermon. You should see if it's recorded somewhere. I would watch that.
It's all part of a game called Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, also known as D&D, was created by the late Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson in the early 1970s. It was born out of their love for military war games, and they devised scenarios with made-up characters that incorporated their interest in history and fantasy fiction. Gygax said it provided an escape.
All of us at times feel a little inadequate in dealing with the modern world. It would feel much better if we knew that we were a superhero or a mighty wizard.
The game is played in a group, and the guide, or dungeon master,
You enter a very small room.
talks the players through the fictional, sometimes violent adventures they will go on.
And each has an elaborate scoring sheet for his character, with points for wisdom and strength and the like. A throw of these special dice decide the outcome of battles in an intricate scoring system. Nothing is acted out. The real act...
Oh, baby. Disco Cobra, thank you again. 20, very generous. That's most definitely what's up. Thank you. Is it going to read it? Dude, I don't know why it's reading some of them and it's not reading others. That's weird. Okay. I come from a biblical background, so I do tend to believe in the spiritual elements. Some stuff could have some sort of spiritual elements. I remember Marilyn Manson stuff. That is so silly, made no evidence to support it. Yeah, it's just like, what it is that once somebody that you really respect starts throwing something out, specifically like a pastor figure, and they say, this is what's happening. If you doubt them, you're doubting like God's envoy. You're doubting God's messenger to you. And so if you're a good church-going family, you just do what the pastor says. And that's what a lot of these American families did. And it led to some craziness pretty quickly, because there wasn't anything more to it other than just this bland, broad assertion of stuff.
Action is in the mind.
Now you guys are entering.
Oh, some sort of cooldown? Ooh, maybe that.
But some, including Deer, worried that while the action was imaginary, some kids might take it too far.
You're leaving the world of reality into the world of fantasy. It advocated murder, decapitation. And I'm going, this isn't a healthy game. How can it be a healthy game?
That game, and Deer's hunch that Egbert was playing it in the tunnels, made great fodder for headlines. But it was a dead end, and Deer went back to Texas empty-handed.
What I do think is interesting is just how, like, that guy's generation, you know, they had Vietnam. They had some pretty horrible world crises. The generation before him, they had World War II, you know. The idea that children and teenagers specifically should be sheltered from violence and bad things and evil, that's a concept that's pretty new. Because prior to that, all of these families grew up surrounded by that darkness and those things, because you couldn't escape it. It was the global problem, right? Like, yeah, there's World War II going on, can't really escape it, got to deal with it. And so to me, it's just interesting. What it seems like to me is that those people grew up that way and they wanted something better for their kids. So they swung too far the other way, and they just ended up sheltering the crap out of them, and went to the point where, like, they weren't allowed to even talk about things that seemed even moderately dark or violent or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. They were extra sensitive to the dark stuff. Yeah. And I think it came from a good place. I think these people honestly wanted a better life and a better childhood for their kids by sheltering them from this stuff, because they thought that, no, I had to grow up around horrible stuff. I don't want my kids to have to deal with that. And I can respect that. You know, especially as a father, I can really understand that desire to protect your kids from stuff that is dark or is depressing or foreboding, whatever it may be. So I absolutely understand that desire. I get it. There we go.
It wasn't within a day or two that the phone call came in. And I was told where I could find him, that he was still alive. So we flew out, and I'm trying to remember his exact words, but he couldn't really say a lot. And I left it like that.
Egbert was a complicated teenager whose disappearance was never fully explained and who later committed suicide.
There was speculation he was the victim of a campus game called Dungeons and Dragons, but after a month-long nationwide search, he was found unharmed.
Deer fed into the growing suspicions about D&D in
Yeah, basically it's really tragic, but it sounds like he was just a kid that struggled with mental health issues and ran away for a little while. They took it as an opportunity to start tearing into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and even though none of it was based in anything, you know, it's just got caught up in it. But isn't it crazy how something as ridiculous as the insanity surrounding this stuff starts with something as mundane as that? It's just baffling. But I'd keep my kids away from Ubisoft games. That shit depressing. Yeah, where's the Puritan push to boycott Ubisoft? That's the real enemy. Dude, that's pretty good. He took my thing.